Councilwoman DeGroot, Councilwoman Hayner, Supervisor Quigley, Councilman Secreto, Councilman Van Cleek.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? None. Thank you. Public discussion on agenda items? Please come to the podium. We will have a full public comment session at the end of this meeting for anything and everything that you wish to present to us. Yes. Come up. Is it an agenda item? After we get through with town business. Thank you. The first matter of business, Ms. Sanders. I think the resolution is quite clear based upon Mr. Van Cleek's statements that given this change in my heart, that it's in the best interest of the town to place the day-to-day executive powers back in my hands. Please do. It's your right.
Ulster resident. It is one page and I am at 3 minutes, so there is no need to call time. Me and my neighbors have spent the last 4 years asking this board for your advocacy on the muddy Esopus Creek releases, help with slumlord property owners, creating quieter train crossings, creating a carbon offset policy to curb clear cutting trees, creating a CAC to get millions of dollars in state environmental grants, and to keep us safe from train derailment, oil spills, flooding, and the effects of Central Hudson's environmentally disastrous training center. But we saw no results, no follow-up, and our letters and petitions went ignored. Even when the town admitted there was a problem. That is, until Mr. Quigley resigned in a dignified and peaceful transition. Overnight, our community saw results and felt heard by this board. We felt hope that finally the small town political shenanigans that seemed to use us like chips in some demented town-wide poker game would end. Constantly flaunting an upper hand is not winning the game. Earning the respect and confidence of a constituency is. Our citizens are not naive to believe Mr. Quigley's blatant attempts to disparage Deputy Supervisor Van Cleek in the press for political gain. It's just sour grapes and a tired old playbook. Deputy Supervisor Van Cleek is a unifier. He is empathetic, productive, and objective, regardless of his business or politics, and clearly a shrewd bookkeeper, as proof of his half-a-century-old business. Mr. Quigley has admitted he's not a people person. His racist and misogynistic comments are not only insulting, but also shut down half our population from civic engagement. And when this board continually lets these discretions go, unpunished, or supports his repeated flip-flop decisions, it's embarrassing for our town. Mr. Quigley excels at saving money, but he's left millions of dollars on the table in a well-funded environmental improvement fund from which our town's infrastructure could have benefited. His capriciousness is a liability. He is grossly out of touch with the groundswell and frankly reality. Look at the amazing things going on in the towns all around us. The eco businesses popping up, the cool events, the community projects. There is nothing innovative about the town of Ulster. There is no community center, no culture, no celebrated history, no collective pride. Our infrastructure is in need of help. Why? An old-fashioned mindset, and profits and power have been put before people. Sadly, if anyone professes their support for Mr. Quigley tonight, they've been more than likely encouraged to do so by the man himself. So I ask the board to seriously consider whether it is in our best interest to go backward and whether you really want the discord, the disunity, and this petty Game of Thrones experience to continue to be played out for another year. ego, control, and power, the very definition of patriarchy. We're so over it. We need new leaders like you with fresh ideas and respectful attitudes. And the sooner the better, because we're wasting time and losing momentum on what our town of Ulster has the potential to become. Thank you.
Well written. Thank you very much. Any additional comments?
I'm just going to be very short and sweet. I just like to say that I think that Councilman Van Cleek has my total confidence, and I think he would be an excellent supervisor. And especially, I think he knows the finances. And why did we hire a comptroller to begin with?
Thank you. Any additional comments? Oh, I can't see you, Laura. Please.
Good evening, Laura Hartman, 44 Catskill Avenue, and I'm the chair of townofulstercitizens.org. On March 8th, 2024, Town Supervisor Jim Quigley announced that he would resign from office on August 31st. He cited health issues that he is having, and in Hudson Valley 1, he also cited a decline in the Republican Party as another reason. And I quote, Quigley was not optimistic about the role of his party in the county or in the town of Ulster, predicting in an interview that the town he had dominated politically would go Democratic in a few years. This is a one-party state, he said. There is no Republican Party. On March 8th, he also commended Deputy Supervisor Clayton Van Cleek on how well he handled the meeting and that he would be leading the meetings going forward. It had been long planned that Mr. Van Cleek would succeed Mr. Quigley, a plan initiated by him. And in fact, a few days earlier, he announced his resignation to Regis Obajiski and me in his office, and he said he was done. At the time, he had great confidence that Councilman Van Cleek could lead the town. Then at the April 9 town board meeting, there was a resolution delegating all authority for the daily operations of the town of Ulster and its districts to Deputy Supervisor Clayton Van Cleek. The plan was fully in place for Mr. Van Cleek to begin handling the day-to-day operations of the town, and it was working very well. On June 10th, Mr. Quigley rescinded his resignation, apparently because now he feels better. But also it seems he has had second thoughts about Mr. Van Cleek's ability to lead the town. From the Freeman, I quote, Van Cleek said recently that there had been some friction with Quigley involving questions about running a business in the town and whether that would create some conflicts of interest. The two men discussed the issue in private earlier this month, and it appeared to be resolved. Mr. Quigley is also quoted in the Freeman as saying, the contrast between him and me is dramatic. He said, he's a more people person. He has taken and handled some personnel issues delicately that I wouldn't and that I chose not to do. On the other hand, he doesn't have a mastery of the finances. So it would seem that the decision not to step down is not just about feeling better. He's more of a people person. Yes, Mr. Van Cleek is. Since he's been leading the town, there has been a much better tone between the board and the residents. We are all communicating much better, and we feel that someone is listening to us and cares about what we have to say. He doesn't see the town as Republicans and Democrats. We are all fellow residents and neighbors. So Supervisor Quigley changes his mind, and to justify his reasoning, he disparages the person he handpicked to succeed him. That's a really low thing to do, and our town deserves much better than that. Councilman Van Cleek has run a very successful business for a long time. Obviously, he can handle finances, and he definitely has our support. We have been down this path before with past threats of resigning or not running again and then taking it back. How can we trust anything Mr. Quigley does or says? He thinks it's fine to toy with the residents of this town and disrespect every one of us. This situation is embarrassing for the town, and the drama is just unbecoming. We are not to be toyed with, and we deserve a town supervisor who we can count on, who we can trust, and one that behaves in a professional manner and respects its residents. This is not what we are getting with the rescission of Mr. Quigley's resignation. Thank you very much.
Ms. Hartman, before you sit down, I have one question for you. For the benefit of this audience here, would you also disclose what else you're chairman of in the town of Ulster?
The Democratic Committee.
Thank you very much. Now, is there anybody else here tonight that wishes to make a comment on the agenda item? Seeing none, I ask for a motion to adopt the resolution as presented. And I will be asking for a roll call vote.
Please read the resolution, please.
I will be glad to. Whereas by resolution dated April 4th, 2024, the Town Board of the Town of Ulster delegated all authority for the daily operations of the Town of Ulster and its districts to Deputy Town Supervisor, Town Councilman Clayton Van Cleek pursuant to Town Law Section 29. And whereas Town Supervisor James E. Quigley III has stated that he has withdrawn and rescinded his intent to resign the office of Town Supervisor that was scheduled to take place at some point in August or September 2024. And whereas it is in the best interest of the Town of Ulster to have any legal authority that was previously delegated to Deputy Town Supervisor, Town Councilman Clayton Van Cleek pursuant to Town Law Section 29 to be formally withdrawn and or rescinded now. Therefore, be it resolved that all authority for the daily operations of the Town of Ulster and its districts is hereby delegated to Town Supervisor James E. Quigley III pursuant to Town Law Section 29. And be it further resolved that the Town Board Resolution dated April 4th, 2024, delegating all authority for the daily operations of the Town of Ulster and its districts to Deputy Supervisor Town Councilman Clayton Van Cleek is hereby rescinded in full. May I have a motion? Yes, no?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded? Seconded? Roll call,
like to
any
make a comment.
discussion?
Yeah, I would.
Please.
May I have a microphone? I hope the words of my mouth will be honoring to God, the community, and my family. I'm going to be long. In the summer of 2018, I was approached by Bob Mitchell asking me to consider running for the office of Town of Ulster Supervisor. He said that Jim Quigley had once again threatened to resign and that he and others had confidence in me and believed I would have the support of a large part of the community if I decided to run for supervisor. The next day, I met with Jim Quigley to question whether he was resigning or not, and to tell him that because of his repeated threats to resign, I was asked to consider running for supervisor. He said that though he had threatened to quit, he was staying. He then asked, "What, are you thinking of running against me?" And I told him, "No, not if you stop threatening to quit." He asked me if I wanted to serve as a councilman, and I said, "Not really. I want to serve as the supervisor someday." In early 2019, Jim asked me to consider running for councilman because Joel Brink had announced that he was not going to run again. He said that if I won the seat, he would work with me on learning the supervisor's job, then not run in 2021 so I could run for supervisor, giving me a good opportunity to learn the ropes. I ran for election as a councilman and won. In the late spring of 2021, Jim told me that he had reconsidered his offer and wanted to run for re-election as the supervisor. He said he had plans to run for the county executive position in 2022 and thought continuing on as supervisor would help him in his campaign. He offered to make me deputy supervisor. Win or lose, he would resign as supervisor after the county executive campaign. After the loss in the campaign for executive, he decided he wanted to stay on as supervisor. I should have learned. Since Jim's comments to me had gone unfulfilled twice, I was considering not running for re-election as councilman this past fall. Jim and the Town of Ulster Republican Committee head Corey Howick then met with me in my office and asked me to reconsider running for councilman with the promise that from them that Jim would resign or retire by September 1st, 2024, this year, allowing me the potential opportunity, if appointed by this board, to fill out the remainder of Jim's term as interim supervisor. I would then run for election as supervisor in the fall of 2025. It was supposed to be a binding handshake agreement. I ran for re-election as councilman, unopposed, and believe it or not, I won. Thanks to all of you. In a surprise announcement to all of us on March 14th of this year, Jim announced his intention to retire at the end of August. I thought he was going to announce his retirement in August. That night, he gave me the keys to his office and said, "It's all yours." Then this all happened. Sunday morning, June 9th, a couple of weeks ago, I sent this note to Supervisor Jim Quigley. Earlier this year, you announced that due to personal reasons, you were giving the board advance notice that you intended to resign as supervisor at the end of this coming August. You asked me as a deputy supervisor to chair all future board meetings, and you presented a resolution, which was passed unanimously by the board, giving me the authority to run the day-to-day operations of the town. Since that time, I have faithfully engaged in a process with you for an effective and smooth transition. You stated that you would focus the majority of your remaining time on several projects and the final training of our comptroller. Since then, I've led department head meetings, engaged with other staff, attended numerous public meetings, and overall started the transition, all as I thought was appropriate and in consultation with you. There have been some minor struggles, but we seem to be working through them. On Monday, June 3rd, I met with you to discuss current items and upcoming events. At that meeting, you began questioning my intentions and integrity in making impartial decisions due to my business and personal relations within this community. I was offended by your accusations of potential and unfounded problems. I saw this as a selfish attempt by you to disqualify me as the next supervisor. As I told you then, and I have been told by many people, that they did not believe you were actually going to resign and that I should watch out. I thought we ended that meeting with an understanding that your accusations were false and wrong, and that we were still on track with a plan. We ended with, "Let's move on." At Thursday's caucus and board meeting, you acted disconnected and annoyed as I led the meeting. You left the building and abruptly at the end, and then, as confirmed by others, had a long meeting with Corey Houck in the parking lot. On Friday morning, I asked to meet with you to discuss your public questioning that morning within the offices about how I ran the meeting and about how my considerations for appointments of future confidential secretary and deputy supervisor. As we began our meeting, I questioned you about my concerns as to what was said that morning in the offices and what you discussed with Corey. You answered me directly, saying that you and Corey had concerns with my ability to serve as supervisor. You said your discussion with Corey involved Corey asking you to either reconsider your decision to resign or to ask the board to appoint you as a board member after you resigned as supervisor and I became supervisor. I told you and Corey that I will not support any action that would have you returning to the board as an appointed councilman. I see no way that that would be effective or manageable. You told me that if you did not resign as supervisor and the board does not appoint, you told me that if you did resign as supervisor and the board does not appoint you to fill the councilman's seat, that you would run against me in caucus next year. It is clearly apparent to me that since the time you announced your intention to resign, you have been having second thoughts, but you were unwilling to say that. Your physical health has improved, and you are beginning to realize that you truly want to continue as a supervisor. Whether or not you resign as you intend is your decision. Neither I nor anyone else can make that decision for you. It is my recommendation, considering your given ultimatums, that you should rescind your decision to resign as supervisor and finish out your term. No vote is necessary for that. In addition, I recommend that you present to the board a resolution returning to you the responsibilities of running the town on a day-to-day basis. For the sake and benefit of the town and for overall peace, it will be my intention to support that resolution. As I have demonstrated, I will remain faithful to our town. I will continue as a board member, ready to step up as needed or sit down as the changing circumstances require. My abilities, my intentions, and my integrity have not and will not be the issue in question. Obviously, I am embarrassed, angry, and offended by all of this. But for the benefit of the town of Bolster, its citizens, and our outstanding staff and vendors, I strongly encourage my fellow councilmen, my fellow councilwomen to vote yes, delegating to the elected supervisor the authority and responsibility needed for the daily operations of our town. I've said enough. I am confident that next fall, one way or the other, the voting citizens of this town will select the leadership they want for this town.
Thank you, Mr. Van Cleek. Just like to remind everybody, there are two sides to every story. And at this point, I'm not going to dignify what misstatements were said there with any response.
Roll call.
Are there any roll call, please?
I got something to say. You know, I'll be sitting on this board for 16 years next year. But I was never so embarrassed by what you did in the paper. Councilman Van Cleek, he goes out of his way for this town. I remember when he got elected, the first thing I told him that first week of January, you're not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, we're board members. And I'm not going to stick with what you said, Clayton. I'm going to do what I wanted to do. But for Jim, you to do that in the paper, that was a slap in the face. Totally uncalled for. And you're the one that made the motion to delegate him the authority to take over the everyday operations of the town. Clayton, I would just want to say thanks for being a board member and not a political person. I mean, my own Democratic Party will tell you that I'm not a political person, you know? So.
Thank you, Mr. Segredo. So I take that speech as a no.
Newly elected board member, I was shocked to hear that people thought I was a handpicked candidate by our supervisor. I honestly have to say how surprised I was how town politics actually work. I knew that Supervisor Quigley was a financial genius and no one could have done a better job than what he had done. I thought I was a minority in my previous career. However, I have found that being a councilwoman has just as many challenges. My intention as your councilwoman was to bring more businesses to our town. And I wanted to promote the town of Ulster to the strength it had to the time that I was growing up. As a supervisor, the definition is to run day-to-day operations within your town. Sometimes this can be very challenging, and I am sure of that. There is no training for many of these situations. However, I feel we should encourage new ideas being brought to our board meetings, to have patience for those who volunteer for citizen action groups and for every one of us who is trying to get things accomplished that make our town even better. First and foremost, all of us deserve to have someone who can be kind and deliver on these manners. Every one of us deserves respect, and I feel that is not always an example followed by all. Repeated threats of resignation might be a telltale sign that this position no longer holds the challenge it once did. When the day comes and you find out you don't like your job, you don't like your coworkers, you don't like your department heads, and yes, your constituents, it might be a good time to consider that resignation. Everyone, including myself, wants our supervisor to do what is best for the town of Ulster. The resignation notice that occurred early in March, bringing and adopting a resolution that cited Town Law 29, Section 16. In this law, we need to transfer duty from the supervisor to the deputy supervisor. However, after consulting with the AOT, I have found that we have a board do not have a way to transfer the duties of a supervisor to the deputy supervisor. It is considered part of the agreement of becoming a deputy supervisor. The deputy becomes the supervisor when the supervisor is unavailable. I did not research this myself, nor did I question it. And if it was questioned or challenged, would it hold up in our state Supreme Court? I trusted both Supervisor Quigley, Deputy Clayton Van Cleek, and our town attorney, Jason Kovacs, to put forth resolutions that couldn't be disputed. As for this agenda, I was given a copy with this resolution on it on 6/18, Tuesday night after 5 o'clock. And with 6/19 being a federal holiday, with no government offices open, I couldn't inquire to the town, nor have enough time to research any legal matters on my own. I was going to abstain at this time from voting on this motion. However, I'm told that I'm not allowed to abstain. So I've been told that if I cannot abstain, that I should vote, that I feel I should vote no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's next?
Well, I didn't do a full, I would do a full roll call if
Thank you.
anyone else does not have comments to make. Councilwoman DeGroot,
No.
Councilwoman Hayner. Supervisor Quigley,
No.
Councilman Secreto. Councilman Van Cleek.
Motion fails. Congratulations, Mr. Van Cleek. You can continue to run the town. In addition, please advise the town department heads how you wish to proceed to negotiate their contracts. On the next item on our agenda, approval of minutes for the May 2nd and May 16th meeting. May I have a motion to accept the minutes? Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Aye. I hear nothing. Is that an abstention? No, Mr. Van Cleek, is that an abstention? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay, so the minutes are approved. Communications,
No communications tonight.
thank you very much. Abstract of claims,
I have the abstract of claims here. Presented for June 2024. Total expenses over the month, starting with checks written on 5/30/2024 through 6/14/2024. Total amount expended is $1,477,850.31. It's important to understand that a major portion of that had to do with the wastewater treatment UV upgrade system. So I make a motion that be accepted.
any discussion on the abstract of claims? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Presentation and acceptance of the town clerk's monthly report. Ms. Treby, is there anything you wish to call to our attention?
No, there's not.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept the town clerk's monthly report? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a presentation and acceptance of the supervisor's monthly report. Ms. Sweeney, is there anything you wish to call to our attention in that report since you prepared it? Thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept the supervisor's monthly report? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Presentation and acceptance of the Statement of Annual Financial and Operating Information, SEC, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. Before I call for a vote, Mr. Van Cleek, in caucus, you asked for a copy of the changes. Would you like to defer this to the next meeting so you have a time to read the changes?
No.
May I have a motion to accept the annual SEC filing? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Secreto, the next three items are yours.
These are camp counselor hires. Camp will open on July 1st. We'll run for 7 weeks. The These kids right here will be making $15 an hour. Miley Bagando, Cynthia Borschel, Nicole Ellsworth, and William Hack. At $15.25, I have Courtney Haley, McKenna Collenbach, Melinda Malcosco, let's see, Hayden Mitchell, Mackenzie Manor. At $15.50, Dakota Quick. Let's see here, and Xavier Fowler. The number 1 and number 2 camp counselors will be making McKenna Black $18.75, and David Jackson will be making $20.75. And I make a motion that we hire these counselors for the camp.
Do we have a second? Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next is a hire for the water department. It comes at the request of John Rose, our superintendent. Andrew Lee to be seasonal help, water department. It'll be a seasonal position, non-competitive, non-union. No health insurance, wage will be $18 an hour, and John's looking for him to start on the 24th. I make a motion that we hire Andrew Lee.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Since I'm on a roll here. This comes at a request of our chief of police. Employee's name is Daniel A. Norman, be a part-time police officer, comes out of the general fund. Part-time, non-competitive. It is a union position with the PBA. No health insurance. The wage will be $27.32. And start date's the same, the 24th. I make a motion that we hire Daniel A. Norman as a part-time police officer.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item comes in relation to a project that Mr. Secreto has started in renovating the lighting system at the Orlando Street softball field. In the late winter of 2023, we had a windstorm that knocked down a pole, destroyed the field lighting. And that when we went to replace the field lighting, we found out that it was going to produce uneven lighting across the field, which would create a safety issue for the players and a liability issue for the town. So we have gone to an engineering firm to design a relighting project and a renovation of the electrical distribution system down there. It's estimated to cost $200,000. And I'd like a motion to authorize the filing of the Ulster County Municipal Parks and Recreation Grant for partial funding for the replacement of the stadium lighting at the Orlando Street softball field in an amount of $100,000. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chief? The next item is in relation to the firearms agreement. Would you be clear on any changes that might be inherent in this agreement between the previous agreements that we have signed?
Due to the contractual nature of the sheriff's office employees, they don't recognize the same holidays as the town does. I've asked to modify the original agreement that was sent to include no weekend, no Saturdays, no Sundays, and also no holidays, utilizing the range.
And it's your recommendation that we adopt this agreement?
Yes.
May I have a motion to authorize the signing of the agreement? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is in relation to a resolution that the town board passed at the June 6th meeting, delegating to the highway superintendent and his secretary the responsibility for the day-to-day management of the recreational facilities at Post and Ryder Park. The resolution involved the granting of a stipend to a union employee, which is a matter of mandatory bargaining. So we have negotiated between the town and the Laborers International Union a memorandum of agreement in relation to this stipend. May I have a motion to authorize its signing? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item in relation to the previous municipal grant for the softball field is a resolution declaring the replacement of the field lighting and other antiquated electrical components at the Orlando Street Field a type 2 action under seeker. May I have a motion? Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a resolution to authorize a public hearing for a special use permit and to initiate the seeker's review for Sage Cannabis at 268 Forest Hill Drive, Kingston, SBL 48.13-3-16.100 for Thursday, July 18th, 2024 at 7:10 PM. May I have a motion? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the resolution to authorize a public hearing for a special use permit for the Joint Cannabis Dispensary, 1221 Ulster Avenue, Kingston, SBL 48.7-1-24.100 for Thursday, July 18th, 2024 at 7:15 PM. May I have a motion on the resolution? I have one. May I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a resolution to authorize a public hearing for a special use site plan amendment for the venue on the hill, 261 Sawkill Road, Kingston, SBL 48.10-1-17.100 for Thursday, July 18th, 2024 at 7:20 PM. May I have a motion? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chief Berardi, could you comment on our town's experience with Cap Court before I call the motion?
Cap Court, which is a centralized arraignment park housed at the Ulster County Jail or Law Enforcement Center, has been in service since June 17th of this month. We have utilized it twice, although we haven't signed an agreement yet. We utilized it for the fact of arraignment. We never turned custody over to the prisoners over to the jail staff because the liability wasn't agreed upon. Since then, the town has navigated an agreement with the sheriff's office and Ulster County to fit our needs and our likings. So I encourage us to move ahead with this resolution tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the last couple of months, Deputy Supervisor Van Cleek negotiated with the county, Sheriff's Department and the county attorneys for certain language in the agreement that we're being asked to sign. Recently, we've received an email from the leading magistrate in the county who made statements that violate that agreement. Nonetheless, I'm asking for a motion to accept the resolution to authorize the town supervisor to sign a memorandum of understanding for the Cap Court arraignment in Ulster County. May I have a motion? Any discussion? I trust that you will bring back to this town board any incidences where this arrangement does not work.
The hopes is obviously with any agreement, there is some growing pains. We hope to navigate them, but I will be bringing those issues back to the board.
So that the citizens of this town know There are a number of issues that are in the criminal justice system that do not qualify for cap court. Some of them involve orders of protection. The town has one magistrate who refuses to come out at night because she participates in cap court. And we have another magistrate who says, I will come out at any time to take and support the town police department. I trust that when we run into an issue, that the police department will take and use the justice that is behind you in your duties. All those in favor? Aye. Roll call, absolutely.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes.
Yeah. You can help.
That's it.
Trying to help.
Okay. Councilman Secreto? Councilman Van Cleef?
No.
This is.
The next item, Mr. Groot will discuss the participation of the town of Ulster in a joint exercise with the Kingston Water Department for the New York State DEC Drinking Water Source Protection Program.
Well, I have to honestly say, this is something totally new to me. I didn't know anything about water when I started this job January 1st, and I can tell you more about water than I've ever known my entire life, just so you all know. I'm going to tell you that we have 7 water districts here in the town of Ulster, and I've learned about 4 so far. I'm going back in 3 more months because I took up a lot of their time so I could ask questions about water. I recommend that we, as the town of Ulster, join in this So I will learn a lot more about water, and I'll tell you about it next year, I promise.
So we have a motion to authorize the town to participate in the New York State DEC Drinking Water Source Protection Program. May I have a second on that motion?
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last item under new business. It is in relation to 300 Grant Avenue. In 1996, the Head Trauma Center was granted by the Ulster County IDA a 30-year pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. It had a graduated step up every 5 years, and in 2024, it maxed out at $1,380,000. The values of the real estate in the town between 1996 and today have changed dramatically. The value of this, the assessed value of this property has remained at $23 million since the beginning of time. And if the equalization rate of the town was applied today, the building would have an implied market value of $50 million. I don't think anyone in this community would pay $50 million for that building. There is an analysis that is available in the package of materials on the website of the town that shows that due to the owner's rejection of the pilot agreement, the town will be losing in 2025 $227,750 in non-real estate tax revenue. This is split between the general fund and the highway department, and it will create a problem. Additionally, the valuation completed for the tentative tax roll shows the town's valuation at $961 million. The tax roll at the beginning of the year that was used for the billing of the 2024 was $968 million. By moving this project from a pilot to the tax roll, it merely places the town back even with where we were at the beginning of 2024. And that is before the effects of the tax certiorari actions that we expect to be receiving over the next month over properties. I will tell you tonight, one of the grieving parties was iPark 87. They made a case to the town assessor during grievance day that the property was not worth more than $9 million. The current assessment value is $36 million. So with that being said, we will be looking forward to an interesting budget season. Moving to the old business, Mr. Secreto, the first item.
This hire comes at the request of our police chief. The employee's name is Raekwon M. White, who was a part-time police officer. Yeah, he had a medical problem. He couldn't finish phase 2 of the police academy, but he has asked to stay on as a part-time dispatcher. So that's what we're looking to do tonight. It'll come out of the general fund, part-time, non-competitive. It is a union position with the PBAs, no health insurance. It's step 1. The wage will be $20.24. And his start date is also the 24th of this month. And I'm happy that he stayed on. He's a good kid. So I make a motion that Raekwon M. White become a part-time dispatcher in the meantime.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Several years ago, County Executive Ryan approached me about the potential for the redevelopment of the Quality Inn as a transitional housing facility run by RUPCO. I advised Mr. Ryan at the time there was no public water and no public sewer at the location, and that it required approximately $2 million to deliver those utilities to the site. We received a contract from Ulster County under their ARPA subaward agreement, and we went to bid for the water line extension for RUPCO. We received a low bid of $498,200, and I'm asking for a motion to accept the resolution awarding the contract for the water line extension for the RUPCO project to Birdsall Excavation and Construction in the amount of $498,200. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Previously, the town board in April had passed a resolution referring Bread Alone expansion at 2121 Ulster Avenue to the Ulster County Planning Board. The Planning Board felt that there was a defect in the referral because the referral showed up after the plans were reviewed. Comments were provided to the applicant and the town, and the applicant's engineers prepared and presented to the town planning board at its last meeting the responses of their representatives to the county planning board's comments. I'm asking tonight for a resolution referring Bread Alone back to the county planning board for an approximate 11,200 square feet addition and approximate 2,000 square foot second addition at 2121 Ulster Avenue, Lake Katrine, with section block and lot 39.15-4-16.100. May I have a motion? Any discussion?
Yes. You discussed with us earlier in the meeting that many of the questions that were addressed at some community meetings to Bread Alone and their engineers about environmental concerns were addressed and reviewed thoroughly by our planning board. And at this point, we are forwarding this back to the county, and we are accepting the report from our officials and our experts that the environmental impact of this project is within the is none, and that all efforts made to do the job correctly are being done. So it's now being referred to the county. It will have to come back to the town board for vote.
Yes, it will come back to the town board for final site plan approval with complete documentation that was provided to the county planning board.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner, Supervisor Quigley,
Yes,
Councilman Secreto, Councilman Van Cleek.
Yes.
thank you. At the last meeting, there was a presentation of a conceptual improvement program for the parking lot lights at Town Hall. Option C, which was the most comprehensive relighting, which included additional fixtures in the parking lots and a relighting of the police department parking lot and a relighting of the senior center, was the preferred choice of the town board. I'm presenting tonight a resolution authorizing the completion of the bid package and the public bidding for the lighting improvements for the town hall parking lot and the connection of the senior center building to the backup generator. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. For the last item under old business, Mr. Secreto on summer camp and park, post-park operations.
As I mentioned before, summer camp will, July 1st will open. It'll run for 7 weeks from 9 in the morning till 3. Right now we have 66 kids there. For the post-park operations, everything seems to be running smooth. The weekends, we have 3/4 of the time, we have the highway department employees down there working, because couldn't get anybody else to work. So I want to thank Frank for doing that, and I haven't heard any complaints. Everything's been running smooth.
I wouldn't complain if I was getting double time on Sundays either.
Is that according to our contract?
That is in accordance with the contract,
Well-
yes. At this point, there's a presentation by Keith Leibold, the Affordable Housing Conservancy, in reference to a proposed renovation to the Gallows Hill Mobile Home Manufactured Home Facility.
Good evening. I am Gregory Ortiz. I'm the Executive Director of the Affordable Housing Conservancy. I would like to just take a minute and introduce who we are and what we do to you as the Conservancy. I have been the Executive Director since 2007. And the Conservancy was founded by local businessmen in Ulster County, community and spiritual leaders, to be a resource center for the development, preservation, and improvement of affordable and historic housing for the benefit of the community. We have been mostly funded by grants, but we have also received private donations. The structure of the Conservancy is we operate on a very minimal staff and minimal administrative overhead. We staff with employees to meet the needs of our current projects and maintain staff only for the duration of our current projects. Our mission is to develop, sponsor, and facilitate the improvement and preservation of affordable homes, especially serving neglected communities and those most in need of renewal and revitalization. We do this through designated projects which are aligned with the goals of renewal, revitalization, and sustainability to the benefit of underserved communities. The majority of our projects have been in the area of weatherization. Weatherization is the process of making housing energy efficient and lowering the carbon footprint. And that's primarily the work that constitutes the bulk of the work that we've done in the last 17 years. Weatherization is really important because it improves the quality of life for the residents, making their living spaces much more comfortable, while also lowering the operating costs of the landlords, thereby making the properties more sustainable and lowering the carbon footprint. Currently, we have 3 projects, two that are already well in the works and one that's being presented here. One is Harmony Hall, which is a proposal for a 51-unit affordable housing building for senior citizens in the village of New Paltz. That will include 8 units that are set aside for residents who are 30% or below of the median county income. And they will have a rent of virtually $0. In addition to that, our largest project right now is a weatherization program, and we are administering a grant to weatherize 450 housing units a year. And we're at the beginning stages of that project. We're about 2 months into it. And then the third project is the one which Keith will speak to in just a minute. I'd like to introduce our operations, grant operations director and fiscal director, Alicia DeMarco, who's over here. Alicia has the responsibility for running the current weatherization program. We currently have a staff of 13 employees, which Alicia is their supervisor and the one who makes sure that the work gets done according to the specifications of the grant. And Keith Leibold, who is the treasurer of the Affordable Housing Conservancy, and he has been assisting me in running it in an informal capacity since its inception in 2007. And Keith is going to speak to the project why we're here today.
Well, good evening, board members. I'm Keith Leibold, and I volunteer as the treasurer for the Conservancy. A number of years ago, by trade, I'm an affordable housing developer, and I'm a deacon in the Charismatic Episcopal Church, and part of my mission in the diaconate is to provide housing for the poor. I know the supervisor through various business dealings, but some time ago, myself, some environmental activists, and some other local businessmen in the community started a nonprofit that was a little unusual in that we have this corporate shell that we facilitated to do various works within the community. So if someone in the community had an idea for a grant, a lot of times you have that idea, but you can't execute on it because you don't have the entity to do it. So we created this entity, and its day-to-day operations is run by volunteer businessmen such as myself, and through the administrative efforts of others in the community who are business professionals. And then when we do get someone who comes up with an idea relating to our mission, we spin up, we get the grant if we're awarded, bring staff on, execute the mission, and then spin back down and sit idle until another good work or the availability of funds, such as been brought to your attention earlier, happens to come up. During our course of business, we came across this property through a friend of ours, and I went up and took a look at it. And over the years, this project has fallen into a state of disrepair. It currently has 70 residents in it. I would encourage you to take a drive up there if you'd so choose and have a look at it. We went to the state of New York through some various housing divisions, one through Housing and Community Renewal, and a small pot of money they have for distressed assets. And I went to Dennis Doyle at the county, and I said, Dennis, this is going to be a problem real soon. The agency doesn't really have a program that fits what I do, which would be multifamily housing. But they do have this smaller fund for nonprofits that they would be able to put a lot of money into this for its stabilization and revitalization. However, it's not going to be something that a for-profit developer can access. So I went to the director of the Conservancy and I said, hey, this could really be something. One of the caveats that comes with the distress asset money is a limit on affordability. What's I find refreshing about it is it's 80 to 100% of median. So it's not necessarily for low-income families, although there are some that live there, and their rents would be lowered accordingly. But it's designed for middle income families. Families who maybe could afford up to $200,000, $230,000 for a residence. People that make 80 to 100% of the county median, which is somewhere around $75,000 for a family of four. So our plan for this facility is to invest somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million into its rehab. There's 2 sewer plants here that need to be upgraded. There's a water system here that needs to be upgraded. There's a road system here that's in a dismal condition, which has health and human safety issues. I spoke to the local ambulance corps, the first responders. They have trouble getting up there. They don't have a real safe spot for children to get on school buses in the morning. And there's a number of units here that are in disrepair. There's also some vacant lots which are not developed, which would be really great for first-time home buyers and homeowners. So we pitched the state with this idea, and they're very receptive to it. Now, why am I here tonight? I'm here tonight because with that comes a limit as to the total housing expense for the people who live there. So we're going, in a sense, they control how much you can charge someone who lives there by the amount of income they have. Our fear as we developed the model was if we invest this amount of money in this and the assessor decides to go have a look, the property would be reassessed at such a level that the rents that we would be allowed to charge would no longer sustain a model to cover the expenses to run the operation. So we're here today not to ask for a discount in what they're paying now in taxes, but for the town to consider a deviated pilot, which would hold the taxes at what they are currently with a 2% increase per annum for the next 20 years. What we requested was a 20-year pilot. The affordability, just so the board is clear, is locked in perpetuity. So at the end of that 20 years, we would come back and they would ask for an extension or a reevaluation based on how the project is performing and the needs of the systems that are in place at that time. This is this is an operating facility right now. Sure, there's empty lots there, but they're already cleared. They're stripped. We would have to remove some old trailers that have been stacked there. The infrastructure is in place. The capacities are in place for it. The area that the lots are empty is on the town of Hurley side. This is split between 2 municipalities. So the units that are in the town of Ulster side, we have a fund we're going to set aside for the existing units that are there to decarbonize them and weatherize them, providing that the families make between that 80 and 100% of median. They make more than that. They're not asked to leave. Their lot fees are still controlled. However, they wouldn't qualify for weatherization funds, but we would be willing to weatherize the unit and decarbonize them if they so choose. We also plan to improve the landscaping so that it becomes more of a scenic place to live, improve the community features, and we would like to augment the common area with some added low sky compliant lighting because the site lighting that was there is pretty much gone and in disrepair. So we'd like to work with the codes department just to upgrade that lighting and put a solar offset in for the electric that drives the sewer plant, the water plant, and the lighting system.
This property has already claimed several individuals' lives due to fires within the mobile homes in which the fire department, Ulster Hose, could not respond in time to. I've heard the stories from the firemen who have been on the scene during these incidents, and this is really something that I'm not clear on why it was allowed to be built where it was built many, 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 many years ago. So I would encourage the submittal of this proposal to the planning board as it is reviewable under our mobile home laws for the rehabilitation of a mobile home park, and we will proceed accordingly. Any other comments from the board? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our scheduled agenda for tonight. Is there anyone here who has any additional comments that they wish to share? Mr. Moustakis, I believe you have something for us.
Good evening. How are you, everybody? Mr. Quigley, it's nice to see you here. I'm glad your health is better
Thank you.
and you're here tonight to present over the meeting. And the rest of the board also. Glad to see them too. My name is Anthony Moustakis. I live in the Cherry Hill neighborhood off of Sauk Hill Road. I know that Rubco bought the quality in and they're trying to, get it up and running. And I noticed, like you said just now, they're gonna get the water in. And I did hear that they're gonna get sewers in there too. Eventually, not tomorrow, not today, but down the road, they're gonna get sewers. So my thing is, I went around to my neighborhood because we have all septics there. And got about over 50 signatures and petition. And when they do get, hopefully, the sewers, if they do come there, if, signed, sealed and delivered, I would like for our neighborhood to tap into that. Possibly, and to bring it to Cherry Hill. Where the Quality Inn is, that whole property there, there's Ford, there's Campers World that right there. Behind there, there's Woods Road, possibly a pump station. I know I spoke to Mr. Van Cleek and spoke to him at one point, and he said that he was saying to me that they did that in Glenary and they had a pump station where his business is there and they pumped it and it was pretty successful, so maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I have no idea about that. I'm just presenting this to see if possibly in the future it could happen. I don't know.
We received petitions from the Spring Lake residents in, I want to say, 2014, 2015. And we just delivered the second and final phase of the Spring Lake Sewer District now, so it has a long gestation period. So I want you, like Muriel Whitaker, she hung in there till the end, and then
Yes, she
she
did.
ended up getting water in Cherry Hill after a long fight with the town and the Thruway Authority. This could very well be a similar circumstance, but if you could present the petitions to the town clerk so we can put them on record, and we will add it to our list of capital projects.
Great. I really appreciate
And
that.
second of all, if you would communicate to your neighbors the fact that we will be having a public hearing in reference to the venue on the hill on July 18th at 7:20. I know I've gotten phone calls from many of them.
July, what day was that?
18th, the
18th.
Thursday.
Thursday.
I've gotten phone calls from many of them when there was fireworks late at night.
Right.
All right.
I will relay the message to them.
Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Any additional comments here tonight?
Patty Thayer, one of my neighbors.
And I was under the impression that the neighbors that included in that bond, at some point, there wouldn't be a charge for water, but if there was a charge for water, then it would be thrown over to the sewer system that we were supposed to be getting fine. I don't know whether that ever, obviously, was a solution, So where does that stand now? The bond that?
No, it's not. The bond continues out to 2035. Yes. I'm not aware of any commitment to put sewer in Cherry Hill. I know that when they bonded for 100% of the capital costs of the water installation. There was no money left over for any additional improvements. Okay, thank you. Any other additional comments?
Mr. Quigley, I got one more question. Is there sometimes out there grants to possibly help fund this if it did happen out there at this moment in time?
The Spring Lake Sewer District came about because the town was successful in applying for 2 state grants under the Small Cities Program. Small cities grants are based upon the income, has to be 51% or greater of the lower than the median income. Your neighborhood doesn't support that income characteristic. We will be looking to see if there's other sources of funding that will provide similar benefits.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Everybody here.
July 4th is a holiday. Town hall is closed. July 9th is the town planning board. 7 o'clock in this room. At a previous meeting, I don't see Ms. Murphy here, but Ms. Murphy asked about the status of the Xena development. And I called her a couple of days after the meeting and explained to her what was going on. The town cannot refuse to accept a planning board application. So the Xena Development is in the process of preparing their application and will be presenting to the town planning board on July 9th. I would say that if you have an interest in that project, please be here so that you can observe the comings and goings of that meeting. In addition, in July 18th is the next town board meeting. We only have one meeting in July because of the 4th of July holiday. Seeing that, are there any additional comments from any members of the board? All those in favor? Thank you very much. We'll see you in July.